I guarantee it's all there. The rest of America just waiting to swallow you up and forget all about you.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the biggest PR disasters and scandals that took place during the classic Hollywood era before 1970.
Yeah, what's the story?
The story. I have a credible source, and I'm going to run it, and I think you know what story I mean.
Number 20. Walt Disney gave Nazi filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl a tour. In 1938, Adolf Hitler's grand and horrifying plan for fascist Germany was in full swing. Propaganda films were integral to getting the regime's message across, with the most famous ones being made by the documentarian Leni Riefenstahl.
Das sollte so aufgenommen werden, wie ein Künstler es sieht und nicht wie ein Politiker es sieht. Das war es ja gerade. Hitler wollte ja keinen politischen Film. Er wollte einen künstlerischen Film und es ist scheinbar geworden. Ich wusste es gar nicht, dass ich das kann.
When Riefenstahl arrived in Hollywood with orders to get her newest documentary Olympia distributed in the US, she was met with closed gates at most of the major studios. However, she was greeted with open arms by none other than Walt Disney himself.
Following Pinocchio and coming into the Fantasia period.
Yeah, that about did it, you know.
The genius of animation didn't want to distribute her film, but he did give Riefenstahl a tour of his studio and a sneak peek of the upcoming Fantasia. It is an alarming and disturbing bit of early Hollywood lore.
Musically and dramatically, we have here a picture of the struggle between the profane and the sacred.
Number 19. Jackie Coogan's parents stole his money. Having a law named after you probably sounds cool. For former child actor Jackie Coogan, the Coogan Act came about due to a painful betrayal.
And if you are going to portray yourself being hysterical, you better get yourself hysterical.
He rose to fame as a co-star of Charlie Chaplin before becoming one of the burgeoning American film industry's first juvenile movie stars. But the original Uncle Fester performer lost most of his fortune.
I'll handle this. Remember, you took care of the gas inspector.
Darling, why don't we handle this together?
After his father's death, his mother and her new husband squandered the millions Coogan had made in his youth. Once he reached majority age, he sued them. He was only able to win back a portion of his earnings, and the Coogan Act was put in place to protect young performers from a similar fate.
Also, under current law, all of the minor's earnings belong to the minor. No longer is it community property, which is shared with the parents.
Number 18. Marilyn Monroe and the Kennedys.
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
The exploits of one of Hollywood's most iconic stars have been pawed over and sensationalized in the decades since her flame burned out. Marilyn Monroe's untimely death only made the salacious details of her life more enthralling. Some of the biggest rumors concerned her alleged affairs with both President John F. Kennedy and his brother, Robert.
Brief sexual encounters with JFK, and that after that, some sort of relationship with RFK, Robert Kennedy.
Her rendition of Happy Birthday to You at Kennedy's 45th birthday celebration was sultry enough to raise a few eyebrows. That Hollywood's biggest star had become entangled with the first family was pretty sordid stuff, especially by mid-century standards.
In the early dawn hours after Marilyn was found dead, ironically, Wilson had been hired with otage by Lawford to clear her house of information that might compromise the Kennedys.
Number 17. Director William Desmond Taylor's unsolved murder. He was a successful director of the silent era, but his mysterious death ended up overshadowing his contributions to filmmaking. William Desmond Taylor was found shot to death in his bungalow apartment in 1922.
Before the police and reporters arrived, Paramount studio manager Charles Aiden visited the crime scene upon hearing the news. It's believed that Aiden removed evidence from Taylor's apartment that morning.
The list of suspects was a who's who of movie stars and industry people, many of whose lives were affected by suspicions about their involvement. Between a compromised crime scene and PR spinning by Taylor's home studio, the truth of what happened became murkier by the minute.
When considering the roster of stars associated with the case, the motive for the studio interfering was quite strong. Though, this only leads to more questions.
The director's shady past and suspicions concerning his sexuality allowed the press to portray his murder as a heavy-handed morality tale about the evils of Hollywood. The case remains unsolved to this day.
Even the IRA and the Ku Klux Klan were suspected by some, but alas, many were named, many even confessed, but none were ever convicted.
Number 16, the Hollywood 10. In the late 1940s, the Red Scare gripped many in America. The House Un-American Activities Committee clamped down on the film industry, declaring it a hotbed of communism and communist sympathizers.
I believe I have the right to be confronted with any evidence which supports this question. I should like to see what you have.
Even some of the biggest movie stars were expected to answer questions before the committee and compelled to rat out their colleagues. Those who didn't appear before the committee faced the effective end of their careers.
You refuse to answer that question, is that correct?
I have told you that I will offer my beliefs, my affiliations, and everything else to the American public, and they will know where I stand, as they do from what I have written.
Stand away from the stand.
I have written for Americanism for many years, and I shall
stand
continue.
away from the stand.
10 writers and directors stood firm in their beliefs. They refused to testify before Congress, deeming the investigation unconstitutional, and were blacklisted as a result. Though some would find work years after, many did not, and their careers and reputations never recovered.
10 of us are going to prison. Casualties of the Cold War. How many more will there be?
There need be no more. That depends on you.
Number 15, Lana Turner's daughter murdered her lover. Considered one of the most striking actresses of the era, Lana Turner's real life was just as dramatic as the ones she lived on screen. In 1958, she became the center of a media frenzy.
And when he dropped, his arms went out, so that I still did not think that there was blood or a wound.
Her boyfriend, the infamous mafia enforcer John Stompanato Jr., was found stabbed to death in her home. The culprit turned out to be her teenage daughter Cheryl Crane, who reportedly killed him to defend her mother. It was like a soap opera playing out in real time.
Till he was threatening her life.
And this wasn't the first episode of this?
No, and there was no doubt in my mind that he was serious.
Reports of Turner tearfully taking the stand were met with derision by some and gave birth to theories that Turner killed the man herself. Crane was eventually cleared, but the episode was one of the most dramatic in Tinseltown history.
For years, I thought of it as my only identity. You know, it was like you'd say my name, Cheryl Crane, and immediately everybody go, oh yes, who in 1958? You know. It's been a part of my life ever since it happened.
Number 14, Fatty Arbuckle's Hotel Party. In the early 1920s, Hollywood and its stars were becoming the subject of scandal sheet stories about unchecked hedonism and immorality. The Arbuckle manslaughter trials played right into that narrative.
Arbuckle was the biggest name around that they could certainly focus on. He handed them this opportunity on a platter, unfortunately, and they took it and turned it into a media circus, the likes of which had never been seen in this country before.
In 1921, a young actress named Virginia Rappe was taken ill at a party in a San Francisco hotel suite rented by popular film comedian Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle. 4 days later, she was dead. What happened at the party has become the stuff of true crime legend.
A young girl lost her life. A movie star was implicated, and the studios had to hold their breath.
What we do know is that Arbuckle was charged with her death and tried 3 separate times before being acquitted. While the true events of the party will probably never be known for certain, the ensuing scandal was enough to destroy his career forever.
Whether or not he was guilty, whether or not people throughout history remember him as guilty or not, they will always remember him as the person who put a negative face on the Hollywood celebrity.
Number 13, Alfred Hitchcock's treatment of his leading lady. Actresses like Grace Kelly, Kim Novak, and Eva St. Marie embodied the type of woman Alfred Hitchcock found most fascinating on screen. In Tippi Hedren, he thought he had found his own personal cool blonde muse.
You don't love me. I'm just something you've caught. You think I'm some kind of animal you've trapped.
That's right, you are.
Hitchcock took ownership over his young protege's career. He cast her in 2 leading roles, but their working relationship turned hostile.
There was no one that I could go to say, this is what is happening and it's wrong. There was nobody to go to.
Hedren has made several allegations that Hitchcock was wildly inappropriate, if not downright abusive to her on the sets of The Birds and Marnie. She says her refusal to entertain his romantic overtures led him to sabotage her career.
I said, do what you have to do, and out the door I went.
And did he ruin your career?
Yes, he did. He kept me under contract, paid me my $600 a week.
Number 12, Ingrid Bergman's Exile. Ingrid Bergman was an enormously popular star, with film roles including a beloved nun and a saint. So, when news reached America that Ingrid Bergman was pregnant with her Italian director's child, the gossip columnists descended on the story like hungry piranha.
I was a danger for American womanhood. Even my voice over the radio was supposed to be dangerous.
Bergman was married to someone else at the time. Her infidelity, divorce, and subsequent marriage to director Roberto Rossellini cost her a great deal of goodwill both in America and in her home country of Sweden.
Of course I was hurt, but I didn't think that what I had done was so much other people's business. I thought that you should look upon an actress as an actress. What she does on the screen, on the stage, that's what you pay for, and that's what you get.
For the first half of the 1950s, she mostly lived in Italy with her new husband. It took her a while to end her exile and return to Hollywood. Once she did, though, she was welcomed back with open arms and an Oscar.
Forgive me, ladies and gentlemen.
Only God's forgiveness is important.
Number 11. The Debbie Reynolds, Elizabeth Taylor, Eddie Fisher love triangle. Elizabeth Taylor and Debbie Reynolds were not only movie stars, but friends. And few celebrity couples were as beloved as Reynolds and her first husband, the singer Eddie Fisher.
And oh, so suddenly, you mean oh, so much to me.
When Taylor's husband, Mike Todd, died tragically, she found comfort in Fisher's company. Well, apparently that blossomed into something bigger.
Naturally, my father flew to Elizabeth's side, gradually making his way slowly to her front.
Taylor and Fisher's affair was a shocker, and the response was swift, with the public decrying the relationship. Reynolds and Fisher filed for divorce, leaving Fisher and Taylor free to marry. Carrie Fisher likened her parents' divorce to the modern-day love triangle between Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston, and Angelina Jolie.
You're bound to get a headache, no? Twice gave me a whopper.
Number 10. The way Tula Bankhead lived her life. If Bankhead were around today, she'd be the celebrity we'd all be keeping up with.
And how come when I climbed into this lifeboat, you were the only one in it, all dressed up like you knew you were going someplace?
I was going someplace. I was going into a lifeboat.
Her personal life garnered plenty of attention, especially her candidness in discussing sex and sexuality. The actress boasted many male and female partners, and apparently once accepted a film role just to bed actor Gary Cooper.
Do you love me?
I have loved you.
Bankhead had 4 abortions and was 31 when she had a hysterectomy. The MI5 also investigated her alleged entanglements with male Eton students. Additionally, she was very open about her substance use. It's worth noting that the actress came from a distinguished political family in Alabama. Although she ruffled many feathers, she was too busy living her best life to care.
When Miss Bankhead is bored, Miss Bankhead will let you know.
Number 9. Clark Gable's secret love child. While filming the 1935 flick Call of the Wild, Gables' co-star Loretta Young became pregnant, rumoredly with his child.
They went on location. One of the largest snowstorms hit, and the whole company was snowed in. So my mother and father had a very long time to get to know each other and fall in love.
However, Gable was married then, and Young worried that if the studio found out, they'd force her to terminate and ruin both their careers. Young disappeared for a while and kept the baby hidden for about 19 months, eventually claiming to have adopted the child. However, the infant shared her dad's features, and Young even had her ears surgically pinned back to hide the likeness.
And when I was small, if I went in public with her, I always wore bonnets, so my ears were covered.
Years later, Young's daughter-in-law Linda Lewis shared that a 1998 episode of Larry King Live led Young to understand that her child had been conceived during a non-consensual interaction.
Oh, I wish you hadn't.
Number 8. Peg Entwistle, aka Hollywood sign girl, struggled with the pressures of Hollywood.
She was always the cautionary tale, the idea that Hollywood can chew you up and spit you out and not really be fair.
In September of 1932, a woman went hiking near the famous Hollywood sign. She came across a jacket, a shoe, and a purse containing a note. Sadly, she soon spotted the lifeless owner of the items, British actress Peg Entwistle, further down the mountain.
I'm afraid I am a coward. I am sorry for everything.
Initially a Broadway actress, Entwistle headed to Los Angeles after scoring roles in Romney Brent's play The Mad Hopes and later the feature 13 Women, the latter of which marked her posthumous film debut. Shortly after being told that RKO wouldn't be renewing her contract, Entwistle told her uncle, who she was living with, that she was going to the drugstore and then meeting some friends. Instead, she climbed the Hollywood sign and tragically ended her life. She was subsequently nicknamed the Hollywood Sign Girl by tabloids.
Some say that Lana Del Rey's song, Lust for Life, whose lyrics begin,
"Climb up the age of the Hollywood sign,"
is a direct reference to Peg Entwistle.
Number 7. J. Edgar Hoover kept tabs on celebrities. Having the top job in the FBI comes with significant power and responsibility. Mr. Hoover apparently prioritized keeping tabs on anyone he deemed might hold quote-unquote un-American, aka communist values.
If you hung modern art on your walls, had a multiracial social circle, or signed petitions against nuclear weapons, you might just have been a communist.
Sure, it's the FBI's job to protect their country, but not all of Hoover's intentions were supposedly rooted in patriotism. Apparently, he kept personal files on high-profile individuals to use as blackmail.
What he was eager to do was let the person in the power position know he knew what they were doing wrong.
In some cases, he allegedly even deliberately leaked information. Some notable subjects include Charlie Chaplin, Marilyn Monroe, Walt Disney, and Marlene Dietrich. It wasn't just Hollywood A-listers he tracked either, leading some to believe this fodder helped him hold on to his job for so long. The files were destroyed very quickly after his passing.
Saying at least 25 binders and 35 boxes were put in the basement, monitored by employee Annie Fields. No one knows what became of them.
Number 6. Fatal working conditions. As you may have guessed, health and safety were not exactly top priorities back in the day.
Oh, why do I bother? Look at these idiots!
The movie-making world of 1925 to 1930 was reportedly linked to almost 11,000 injuries, 55 of which were fatal in California. Howard Hughes, director of the 1930 flick Hell's Angels, wanted the film's aerial shots to be both believable and spectacular, and paid a great deal to pull it off. And no, we don't just mean the millions of dollars it cost.
Why the hell do they look so slow? This isn't what it was like up there. They look like a bunch of goddamn models.
Hughes, an aviation enthusiast and record-breaking pilot, decided to perform one of the film's most dangerous stunts himself. This resulted in a fractured skull, and he had to undergo surgery. However, a mechanic and 3 stunt pilots paid the ultimate price for Hughes's vision.
You may be directing this movie, Howard, but what you're asking, we can't do it.
Don't tell me I can't do it. Don't tell me it can't be done.
The gyro forces are too much here. You send these planes into simultaneous barrel
rolls
and they
goddamn
won't make it,
climax
Howard.
of the picture, Frank, all right? You make it work.
Number 5. William Randolph Hursts' yacht party ends in tragedy. In 1924, prolific Hollywood silent filmmaker Thomas H. Ince died after attending William Randolph Hursts' yacht party. Rumors began to swirl around the mysterious circumstances of his untimely demise.
We know he's dead. That's the one fact that we know, but since there's so many different stories, I mean, it's pretty much like the movie Clue.
One account suggests that Hearst believed his partner Marion Davies was also involved with the silent movie legend Charlie Chaplin. Side note, she had also reportedly been linked to Ince. In jealousy, Hearst intended to shoot Chaplin but got the wrong guy.
Ince did a slow motion. No, he makes money for Hollywood. And someone got shot, and it was Ince.
We're sure that story sold many papers, but it's probably untrue. The more likely story is that Ince suffered from ill health, and perhaps this night of raucous partying was too much for his weak heart to bear.
Thomas Ince didn't die of natural causes. Wait, no, yeah, he did not. Thomas Ince did not die of murder. He died of natural causes. Nice try.
Number 4. The mysterious circumstances of George Reeves' death. According to LAPD reports, on June 16, 1959, the Superman actor suffered a fatal gun wound. The official report stated that it was self-inflicted. After hanging up his superhero cape, Reeves apparently struggled personally while looking for work.
But George, that's all you were good for. 10-year-olds and shut-ins. That was the best you were ever going to be. I knew that. Why didn't you?
However, many believed there was foul play, and some pointed fingers at his fiancée, Lenore Lemon. Lemon and her guests reportedly waited 45 minutes before calling the cops after hearing the gunshot. Actor Fred Crane supposedly stated that Lemon returned to the room, saying, quote, "Tell them I was down here." Another theory is that Hollywood bigwig Eddie Mannix ordered a hit on Reeves, who allegedly had an affair with his wife, Toni Lanier. But with no fingerprints on the weapon, this mystery remains unsolved.
You have anything to tell me?
About what?
Anything I need to have a story ready for.
Number 3. Charlie Chaplin. Chaplin was married 4 times, and 2 of his brides were minors. His second wife, Lolita McMurray, aka Lita Gray, was in her mid-teens when they started dating.
He was very taken with me. He had his cameraman photograph me in the position of the famous painting, The Age of Innocence. He thought that I resembled that little girl in the oil painting.
They quickly married in 1924 to avoid a scandal and keep Chaplin out of prison after she became pregnant. In 1927, during their divorce proceedings, Gray claimed that Chaplin had tried to force her into an abortion. She also described the, quote, revolting, degrading, and offensive way he treated her.
I think Charlie's real love was his character that he created, really. And anything that appeared to threaten that would bring out the worst in the man.
Gray was awarded the then unusually large divorce settlement of $825,000, and Chaplin's career never really recovered. This wasn't his only scandal either. In the early 1950s, the actor moved to Switzerland after the U.S. denied him re-entry over his political beliefs.
I would like to have told them that the sooner I was rid of that hate-beleaguered atmosphere, the better, that I was fed up of America's insults and moral pomposity.
Number 2. MGM's treatment of Judy Garland.
I cry for you.
Judy Garland appeared in dozens of movies for MGM. Back then, child labor laws were not really adhered to. Instead, the studio forced her to take pep pills to keep her energized during long shoots. These were also used to control her weight.
I'm honestly very hungry.
Those will take the edge off.
No, I gotta sleep tonight.
Halpert will give you something for that later.
While filming The Wizard of Oz, various studio executives would body shame the actress, driving her further toward a reliance on these substances. Garland won a special Academy Award for her performance as Dorothy Gale and was launched into stardom, becoming her generation's girl next door. But at what cost? Supposedly, this was the catalyst for the substance use disorder that would tragically take her life.
Maybe everybody wanted a piece of Judy. Maybe it's just Judy herself. When you have someone with that much talent, the exploitation of it becomes part of the adulation.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Multiple stars were coerced into terminating pregnancies. Back in the day, it was almost like an unspoken rule that the birth of a child meant the death of a career.
But Deanna, having a child without a father would present a public relations problem for the studio. The aquatic pictures do very nicely for us.
Ava Gardner, who terminated 2 pregnancies, wrote in her 1990 autobiography, quote, "MGM had all sorts of penalty clauses about their stars having babies. This procedure was not yet legal to the average American woman, yet film studios readily used them to control their female stars. Or, as one unnamed source put it, quote, abortions were our birth control. Apparently, in some cases, they also added clauses giving them the right to decide when or even whether their stars could marry.
You see, so it really was a wicked, wicked contract.
Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, Judy Garland, Dorothy Dandridge, and more were all victims of the studio's rules.
And I had 2 marriages. It just cost the studio a lot of money to bust them up.
Well, we had to have those annulled. One was to a minor mob figure.
Vince was not minor.
How many of these old Hollywood scandals wouldn't even go viral on Twitter nowadays? Let us know in the comments.
But to criticize people's private life, I thought was wrong, to such an extent that even the senator in Washington gets up on the floor. Out of Ingrid Bergman's ashes will grow a better Hollywood.